Welcome to the Breakthrough Moments podcast, a podcast where challenges meet opportunities. I'm Harold, and together with my co-host Lasse, we explore stories of innovators, leaders, professionals, and entrepreneurs, and how they turn obstacles into game-changing breakthroughs. Get ready for insights that inspire and lessons that last. Subscribe now, and let's dive into the moments that define success.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Breakthrough Moments podcast. Today I have with me Nadav Sagir, who's been developing a lot of AR technology, especially in Slovenia. I know it sounds kind of random as a market, but there's lots of learnings to extract from that, which we will talk about regarding market adaptation. And that's why I have Nadav with me. So first of all, Nadav, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Hi.
So to start from one end, Nadav, in 2018, you mentioned that you had your first major breakthrough, as you would remember it, where you received quite a big investment to scale your team. What type of team were you building at the time, and what type of the AR technology did you think of building with it?
So our team, we're quite an older studio and our team fluctuates. We have our core team always, which is people we're working with for quite a long years. When in 2018, we kind of got introduced to a larger client and we got a larger project abroad that was supposed to expand to several locations. So when there we needed a lot of developer specific. We work a lot with our specialties are augmented reality for cultural heritage. So it was a tour site, but the investor was a business minded. So it wasn't, we were creating kind of augmented reality tour for a large location. And we needed to bring a large team, both of artists, animators and writers it took us about 2 years to even construct the story for the project. And of course, a lot of developers and even developers that were a bit out of our scope, such as back-end developers for servers, because our whole system was running. It was an AR tour running from a server with a very sophisticated payment system, a sophisticated idea of distributing the tour for tour guides. A very exciting project. So we had to scale up and pretty fast. You know, when things happen, they happen fast. And there was also the aspect of the practical things in the studio to move to a larger location, to get the people all in working together as a team. The good thing for me is that I have a very a core team that we're working quite a lot of years and people that I can run and manage different parts. So that was great. And I took for every larger section, I took a person to manage it. And I think that was also for me was kind of a harder thing because I'm as a smaller studio before, I had to manage things myself and have my heads everywhere. When things expanded, we were still not such a large company, 40 people and a few freelance base, so it was a bit larger than that. I had to delegate the work and trust in key people to run certain aspects. But lucky for me, I think we have great people that work in our team. We have a nice network with this. So I think that was the main shift. There were a lot of things, of course. I'm just keeping it kind of short.
Yeah, but cool. Could we start, Nadav, with basically looking at augmented reality or AR as people know it? Many people have, I think, conceptions of VR specifically, like if you think mainstream. How does AR differentiate itself? And basically, you mentioned that you do AR for more so historical sites and if I use more mainstream words like museums and types of scenes like that. How does the technology work and how are you applying it directly in your business?
So the technology works when we started. These technologies, XR technologies, AR and VR, are kind of been growing very fast. The technologies are improving. In the start, we were actually developing our own technologies for SLAM and recognition of the surfaces. So I would just even roll back and kind of talk about some kind of differences between AR, VR, XR,
Sure.
mixed reality. There are a lot of terms in this thing. So usually what I try to say, the main idea that you have a VR is a virtual reality. You're totally immersed in a certain space, which has a lot of benefits, but also disconnects you from a location. So hence in tourism or in museums, we want you to be present in the location. And augmented reality means we're augmenting the reality. We're adding content to the reality. We're doing a lot of projects, not just in cultural heritage, but cultural heritage lends itself very well for this. And I always say, if you walk through Roman ruins in Italy, and you can suddenly see with either your tablet or glasses the buildings, the people, the way to receive this information is much more exciting and much more. You can actually understand it, yeah. So I think the augmented reality is I truly believe augmented reality will surpass a lot of other technologies because of our natural need to interact with the world. And basically, when we interact with the world and add information to it, now information in our case could be 3D reconstructions, characters, stories. Information could be many other things, and we have several projects in different fields where there's data collection and information that actually it's not the visual that's important, but a lot of other aspects. Now, another term is mixed reality. Things today are coming in. You have the Apple Vision Pro, the Meta Quest, where you see a mixed reality, and mixed reality basically what it means is that you're seeing a representation of reality through video cameras. So you're actually not seeing your reality, and you're seeing a representation of this reality. Now, there's a big difference between...
To shoot in there, because I saw, and I think this video is quite mainstream, so for people to like get a grasp of it. Like I saw a couple of days ago a video, I think it was from Meta, where there was a guy walking, I don't know if you saw it, but I think it was in Santa Monica, walking on it. Yeah, like this video, he walks, he first has the normal reality, and then he changes it up to all sorts of different weird alternatives. Like, where does that fall? Is that augmented reality then, or is that mixed reality from that video?
Yes, with Meta Quest, why it's mixed reality? Because you're seeing what they did. They have their glasses, which are VR glasses that are sealed. You're actually not seeing the reality, and you're seeing a video or representation of the reality, which is pretty accurate. But this is what I say all the time, because you have other types of glasses which are see-through, like the glasses that I wear today. The difference is, now let's take it more to medicine or to engineering. Now, if I use a representation, nobody will allow you to operate with a headset that you see a video of a person. You need to see the reality. So there is, because we are also using a lot, and we'll get maybe with Epson Moverio, we are partners with them, and Epson Moverio is a see-through glasses with a projection, so I can overlay content. So in industry and in medical, they will never trust the representation of reality through a video. For exploration, also, this is maybe a personal thing. I think if you walk through a city, a street, now the Meta has the Quest glasses, and they have the Ray-Ban glasses, which are more recording and social networking type. But you will not walk with a sealed face. To put, you can trip on something, walk on something. So this is more a really great experience inside a museum or in a controlled environment. What we do, for example, with Epson Moverio, we have the glasses, and people are walking through a Carthusian monastery here in Slovenia, and they have a whole tour where they point at things. So these are the main differences, because it's very confusing. A lot of people are talking about a lot of those terms. Again, XR is the main term to kind of put this together, but I think mixed reality is amazing. And if you try the Meta Quest, they have this kind of demo starting where aliens come to your living room and you can interact with them, and it really is convincing. The picture quality is great, but I think it stops there. Where it comes to more serious stuff, where you need to be present in the location, then it's augmented reality, which means see-through glasses like I wear now, or a bit more bulky, of course, but that's a very crucial, I think, way of understanding.
Yeah. So you would think then, just to get the business perspective of it, the mixed reality variants, where basically you're losing some sort of focus, you could say, is probably more going to be entertainment-driven like products, and then you have the actual like products who are going to be useful for example, the health industry, to be more so like additions, I would guess, to what you're already seeing.
Yeah, exactly. Because also the Apple Vision Pro that came, it is a video projection of the world. And it's really nice to sit in your living room and see even a big screen and watch TV or YouTube or even play games. Amazing. You're not really worried that if the couch is this much or there, to trip over it. Medicine, industry, there's a lot of other case studies where, and even in tourism where we looked at, where actually I have a lot of things about museums, and there's a lot of issue in this world, because if you would say with technologies, and we need to be careful, because if I came to see a painting exhibition and I come actually to see the painting, I don't want to have
Mhm.
millions of people with tablets looking at it. I think it's, I came to actually see the brush strokes or whatever
Yeah.
is interesting for me. So we need to complement it with technology and not just overtake it. So this is
Mhm.
maybe an opinion, and I think that there are museums who use much more immersive ways. But I think the idea is to help and add with these technologies, and maybe give you some time to also explore the let's say the site you came to visit and feel that you're there, because otherwise you can just explore things back home in a virtual set, which is amazing. But if you already
Mhm.
came to Slovenia for a visit, for
Yeah.
example, and you want to actually see the things and maybe get more information on top. Now, this information from our side is in the sense of cultural heritage and storytelling and things like that, but information could be also just data on things,
Mm.
or audio triggered by different events. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but I see. So with this technology, and you mentioned museums, and it sounds like an obvious place that you would have it because it is like a contained area, as you talked about.
Yeah.
Like you've mentioned for me separately that the implementation and the market adaptation basically to this in Slovenia and the Balkans in general have been tough.
Yeah.
Like the thing I'm wondering about them, because you've obviously like put this in place in Slovenia, and I go to like my fair share of museums when I travel around Europe. I don't think I've ever like actually, and again, it might just be me not looking for it, like same red car, thought processor, but I haven't seen it. Like, where is this implemented today,
Okay.
typically?
It's a great question. By the way, we also do international projects. So we have some projects in Israel, some in Germany. We've done several. I think more Western Europe, Holland is very high end with these
Yeah,
technologies.
I
So
would
I have to
imagine. Mhm.
congratulate them on this. It is implemented. There's a lot of even in Slovenia, we have quite a few projects. People don't always see them. There's a really big problem with. We started with this technology in 2013. People thought I dropped off the moon to use such technologies, especially in such a small location like Slovenia. I see. I will maybe tell later. I see benefits in it and also
Yeah.
difficulties, like everything. But it's still hard to see people. Cultural heritage sector and the museum sector is also a kind of a more closed knit, so hard to get inside there. And they are implementing in different, and it depends on the societies. Yeah, I think Japan has some wonderful ideas. I think Holland. It depends also how people adopt to it. One of our main challenges was we were going around a lot and explaining and seeing the benefits and how to place it. And we have a lot of expertise where it's right to use it and where it's wrong to use it, from our opinion. But I think what worked at the end is that the more the big players like Apple came out with their glasses, people started to wake
Mhm.
up to the technology. I'm even mentioning Pokemon Go as a game, which then was a great breakthrough for us, yeah, because suddenly people, oh, AR, we know what it is, although they didn't.
Yeah.
Which is Pokemon Go has an amazing backstory to it, yeah, because it's actually a scanning of the space around us for what Niantic did. What these things brought it to, so the awareness raising about these topics was is still difficult, by the way. We have a lot of meetings with people that are kind of not understanding what we're doing, where the benefits. Again, different markets, different players, different adaptations, and even clients that come to us that want it because now it's more of a hot topic, don't necessarily understand what they're seeing, because it's not a hologram that appears in front of you without any aid. There are limitations to technologies. It is moving fast, and I believe it's going to be there. But for now, we're still using aids such as glasses or tablets. Depends on which location. But around the world, I think the
Mhm.
States have some amazing examples. The Smithsonian has some great examples there. It's not in the main yet. There's also some really interesting art exhibitions that are now utilizing these technologies. I was just now the Biennale in Venice, and they had some amazing VR, AR. It's in the last few years, it's really growing. But you are right; you need to look for it in a sense. Maybe because I am in
Mhm.
this field, I see it more. It's more obvious to me. But I think in general, yeah, it's still in the
Mhm.
beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. How would you say that that has been in Slovenia then? Because you've obviously been doing it for many years, and in Slovenia specifically, which for anyone listening who knows like central slash more Eastern European countries like Slovenia,
Yeah.
then the culture is a bit like I'm speaking from experience because I lived in Montenegro for several years. That the culture is a bit like people don't want to admit that they don't understand or that they don't know certain things. Like, how was that process of getting like such a like emerging technology and such a like unknown black box type of technology
Yeah.
into that market? Like, how did people take that, and what's been your process there?
There's a lot of stories there and a lot of difficulties here, but and I'm using two main examples. In 2014, we had a large project with an advertising agency, and it was basically it came top down from the rest of Europe because it's for an international client. We need to do AR this year. We need to market. So we created an augmented reality. Actually, it was a game for colleges. It was for a bank, yeah. And basically, students would go out and play. We had four tablets, a kind of a sphere, and you had a kind of air hockey game to play with AR. And what I'm saying relating to the client, and I remember it was a bit of we had to go 8 days. It was an 8-day campaign through all the universities in Slovenia. When we started the campaign, the people in the agency top down, this was years a bit back, they didn't really understand. They said we have to do it, so they went for it. And I remember I mentioned this comment. I was on the first day going around with a crew showing it, yeah, and then passed by somebody from the agency, and they said, "What is this weird? People are holding tablets and walking around. This is not working." And then I get a call: "Come back to our main offices. We're canceling the project. The project is horrible. We don't understand what you're doing here." This, and it's a project we invested a few months in. Luckily, by the time I made it to the meeting, which was a board meeting with a lot of angry, it was a kind of because it was a lot of hard things. They suddenly get a report that the marketing goals they set, how many people will sign into this program, was already reached in the first day, what was supposed to be in 8 days. So it was a total success. Yeah. They didn't understand it. They were still this, but then they saw the numbers. They were happy because in their thing. But now, another thing about this idea of in Slovenia, like you said, a bit of the culture here, and there's a lot of, and for me, I'm also a foreigner here that lives quite a while. My wife is Slovene, my family is Slovene, but I'm quite inside the culture. But there are a lot of shyness to people, and I always joke in different parts of the world when I give a tablet in augmented reality. In some places, they just take or go over the place, and then here people are much more shy, and they're waiting for the other one to signal. So there's a lot of kind of, I want the authority, somebody else to do it or show me. Also with our clients, when they say this was done in Paris, then we can do it here. And we are quite, I think, innovative, and we had some ideas that were not done in other places before, like this multiplayer game that I'm telling you about now was done in 2014. I don't think at that time there were much or any multiplayer games in AR. So it was hard for them to understand, hard for people, but the culture here has its. I'm a very usually an open person, and I also, if I don't understand something, I straight away ask. I have no the opposite. I think this is a good thing. Yeah, here it's kind of culturally it's a bit of a kind of no, I will seem stupid or I'm not. And I had even funny events with a client, which was a kind of a big a big museum and whatever. And when we showed the VR glasses in the meeting, I gave to the main director to try it, and he's, wow, this is amazing. And then he gave it to one of his assistants, yeah. And there was some bug in our program that the whole thing flipped backwards. So actually, the assistant put the glasses and actually saw black. But the assistant, when I'm using that as an example, I think it's relative. The idea the assistant didn't want to show. So he was like, wow, this looks amazing. This looks great. And then I'm checking later and I see a black screen. Now, it's one example, and the person was wonderful. Afterwards, we showed it, and I understand the context. You have to put it in the context of a meeting that there's not much time. So the person said, if he said it's okay, I'm for it. I didn't, but so it's not all about just not understanding, but the idea that people here are very, as I see it, are very, there's a bit of a hierarchy system here in a sense. So this has to be understood, I think, in general in business and in our technology specific.
So how did you go about getting that? Again, I guess you could argue back and forth to what level of market adaptation that you have in Slovenia right now for AR. But how, because since 2014, I guess up until 2024 today, then it's way more received in the market. Like, what were your main ways of going into the market and actually getting people to start investing in it?
That was that was most of our work. It was a lot of awareness raising. So we actually contacted a lot of companies and said, look, let's have a meeting. We just want to show you what we do. You don't need to, we weren't going like aggressive buy it, or even if you need it, we said, we just want to introduce you. Now, I know today a lot of companies are selling this information and coming to give, we have a lot of experience. I can come and make this, but my idea was to show not just in cultural heritage, a lot in industry. We used to go a lot to the car industries. There's quite a thriving car industry, manufacturing here. And we were showing a lot of these technologies where they can help. Even things like Moverio glasses, where you're looking at the robots that are in the factories to save the time to just read the information instead of opening a door to a cage, saving you a few seconds. We did. So I would go a lot and actually foot soldering, face to face. Meeting, and I think I still recommend that because I think people sometimes even we would come to a place that was, whoa, this is interesting. We'll see. 2-3 years later, they get back to us. Yeah, till they hear it somewhere else. They say, oh, remember the person that was there. Yeah, but I just usually kind of we had to do a lot of footwork in this sense and go from a lot of places, show the technology. People sometimes also it's the budgets to go into this at that time. So they go, wow, this is great. I would love to have it, but I'm only, this is my marketing budget or so, and they never even planned for it. So it's a lot to see. And the main thing to show, especially in the business world, is I really do believe there is profit. There is a return of investment in a sense. People sometimes say, no, it's just nice graphics, nice things to show. I think that there's more to it if you do it right. Yeah, if you add to it the right ways. So these are also, it's not just explaining the technology and showing our demos. It's also tailor making to each company where this can help you and where this can give you an extra value in a sense. But there's also reluctance. So as the world is not perfect, we know, and sometimes there's people are used to, especially in larger companies, to a certain, they have their whole system of work. And to change, for example, augmented reality manuals for large companies is an amazing way of transfer of knowledge. Yeah, it's a very powerful tool. Large companies, they took them years to create, and some of them are working with book manuals for machinery that are, you can barely hold them and look at them. And today you can do this all quite easy. But for it's a very rigid system. For that to shift takes time. So I would say a lot of patience. And you mentioned 10 years. We're 10 years in this role, and we managed to attract also a lot of foreign clients. I think because of our quality and local, we're doing quite decent. So I think that was part of this work. But it's a lot of patience. It's not a short. It's not a short product. It's a complicated product because you have to custom make it per use. And some companies shy away from this type of product because they say, okay, I need to now for each client I understand him, identify and offer the things. We spend a lot of work with that.
Okay, I see. So it's an ongoing process, and like the adaptation comes more and more, and especially with, as we've seen, like I mentioned, like I actually, it's not for the episode's sake, but saw videos about this a couple of days ago, and it's just popping up more and more often. So it will probably get there. Like the thing which I'm curious about from a business standpoint, Nadav, is what types of businesses do you think will like spin off now as a result of this technology? Because right now, as we talked about, like you have many products per se, like as of glasses and things which are like from the big ones as of Meta and Apple, which are kind of just like the entertainment arm of just their phones and their platforms, etc. What types of products and services do you think will come as a result? You mentioned healthcare. Like, what other industries do you think will be affected, and how will things look like?
I'm a bit of a believer in this thing. I think most products, because when we see there are a lot of layers, and when people start understanding the technology, I think there's a lot more to it. And I will give an example for a project we did in Slovenia that most people will not connect augmented reality to what we did. Slovenia has a lot of forests, in privately owned forests. And I'm taking it because, you think AR, cultural heritage, this. So basically we came and approached and said, look, the forest owners today, it's not, I think in Western Europe, the forests are much more organized, grid-like. Here it's a little bit more rough, and a lot of people own, which actually is the beauty of it. It's still not organized, but there are a lot of small forest owners that actually, they treat their forest. They don't understand there is a value and potential to it.
Yeah.
What we created is a DGOS, it's called a digital forest app, and it's an augmented reality app where the forester takes his phone, or the owner takes his phone, walks to his plot, just scans the tree, looks at it, and we actually create a digital map that goes to a back end. Now, this digital map, we did this in a collaboration with a few companies. We did the augmented reality part. You also get the width of the tree, and from that you analyze a lot more details. every scan, and it's also slowly they're scanning the trees and their forest, the border of the forest, the plots to come in. So this kind of what I'm trying to show, this is in business, and actually we proved, and we were quite successful with this proof of concept project to show that we're creating a forest inventory. And what, let's say, the government data here is we pulled that database and compared it to ours. Ours was more exact. And also, you're creating. This is where I go back to Pokemon Go and Enetic. You're creating an army of scanners. Yeah. So basically, people are now, instead of now going around forest by forest, spending a lot of times, by giving people an app that they get some benefit. The benefit that we give, the more you scan, you got a value of your forest. You got an estimation of how much it will be worth. So to encourage people to say, oh, I have a small forest, I never even touch it. Oh, maybe it's worth some money. Let's go around with a fun app and scan it. Yeah. So this is one example of a business case that I think is great. I think in a lot of, like I said, in the industry, in manuals, at the end, augmented reality will become an interface. So give you an example, another one, some of the project we suggested, a company that sells white goods, blenders and things to go. So when you put your phone for now or later on headset, you suddenly get recipes. You interact with the product more, and you get understanding how to use it, or even a manual to fix your washing machine, or how to use all the million settings. Yeah, you don't need to open a book. You can look. So the manuals are one part. Marketing, of course, still plays the main role. Entertainment, these are it. I think at the end, other industries will have much more power with it. So, for example, a project that is a Slovene company that does a machine to measure muscle mass. Some medical thing. And what we did with the Epson Moverio, because they're all over the world, and I think they had some locations in Africa where the doctor would have to use their tool. And I remember they came to me and said, like, the problem is we come there, we train people, they forget all about it, we need to come again. And I said, why not? You wear a headset. The graphics are terrible. It's just you see an arrow and where to place the thing. But a person in Slovenia sits with a tablet and gets a live view of the content. So he sees the patient, where the doctor, he sees his eye view, where the doctor is placing things, and can talk to him straight away and instruct him on spot. So this kind of remote assistance through augmented reality is also an amazing feature that will help. And like I said, I think it's coming. I think it's just the market is not really yet understanding the potential of it. So I think again, like I said, I'm very enthusiastic about this field, and things take slower than I thought it would, but the adaptation, but I think there's a lot of fields that it will go to. It's not just entertainment. Even the entertainment will become the smallest part at the long run. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think like one arm of it, which sounds interesting, and Pokemon Go is a good example for it, and the forest type of app, as you mentioned, that you can basically make a business out of it, which has two revenue sources per se, where you have the user who gets some type of gadget or some type of entertainment, say Pokemon Go, and then you have like some type of provider who wants the data that is being created through the user who's actually doing things. So if you take, like, I guess that's not the case, or again, I don't know Pokemon Go that well, but Pokemon Go, I would guess that they got a lot of, like, as an example, street views that you didn't have in before. Or, updated street views. If you think of like Google's job of like having their Google Earth street view done at all times, imagine how up to date their street views could be if you had like the Pokemon Go data like running all the time. So that's it's an interesting element. Like, are you not like, because you're doing a lot of projects for other businesses where you're setting it up, are you guys looking at producing some of these apps and functionalities on your own in-house?
Yeah, we have our own Travel AR Slovenia app, which is a tourist app that we have about 7 locations, and we're growing. We're looking to kind of push more investment to make it more of a platform. And we have also creator base where users can create their own tours. So this is a cultural heritage, but like I said, it's not just cultural heritage. It could be, I do my skateboard sites in the city tour. So we want to actually build it then as a platform that people will build and users could also benefit from it. Again, we're kind of in negotiations about this. So this is kind of a longer term project that we're working. We're working also with this is we were selected among a consortium for educational European Commission project for education of teachers with XR. It's called the PAX Pedagogical Alliance of XR Technologies. And the idea here is that we and a Dutch company were selected as the company experts. The rest are universities from all over Europe, and it's a 3-year think tank to bring XR into the classroom and how to use it. So there's a lot of excitement in it. We are project based. We have our own product sometimes. Today also AI is coming into the picture. Everybody's talking about AI, but in our use case is AI is driving avatars inside our AR experiences. So this technology, it's a very exciting times for all these technologies. Like I said, AR and VR are just one, I think, will become an interface to the world we are in, and it slowly is. So I'm running back to the point about Niantic and Pokemon Go and Ingress, these 2 games. They've been doing this for a while. And basically, if you remember the time that Google Maps would drive around with cars and film everything, they actually created these. Ingress is another game, which is basically a 2-portal, 2-flag walk around the environment, also by the same company. And just a few weeks ago, Niantic launched a kind of an AR world to let developers use their scans. Basically, they are using this data to now have a platform where I can do a tour app using their platform. Of course, we have our own platform, so it's brilliant the way they did it. Well, I would just now jump to another idea that I still have in mind with the collection of data, because I'm trying to show that AR has a lot other layers. For example, we offer this a lot to, for example, shopping centers or the. So if I create for a big grocery store, this kind of a location, I create some kind of game with AR that you look around and you point. I'm also getting the data of where the user is looking. So the data that I can collect in that case is which shelf and the shelf order that are placed. Yeah, so I can see by having a little creature fly around and some win prizes or some kind of fun game that the user goes. Of course, this has to be done with consent and an agreement, but I can actually get data because before you just had the GPS. Now I know where you're looking. So this technology has 2 ways to go. It has what the content I place, what we term augmented reality, but there is also the data, which I think is very important today.
So with the stores, then you're able to get just basically two clients at any given point, and the AI element to it as well. Then you can analyze the data way faster as well, and you can have that magic elf, or what you would call it, that goes around to actually show you products that based on your previous data that you would be more inclined to get and stuff. So it's a really interesting integration between how AR and the AI there will be used. But fascinating. So one thing that I like towards the end here, which I like to ask people on the podcast, and we do it with everyone, is if we are to look at like future breakthroughs and the way forward for you, the company, and like the work that you're doing, if there was one question right now that you could get answered in correlation to your business and what you do, what would you like to know? What would you like to just acquire of knowledge there?
Yeah, because I will tell you like this. It's a really good question because it is the whole, and I will make it a bit longer answer. The augmented reality is a gamble. It's a risk in a sense, the technology. And I know when I started, except we talked all the time about the market and how the adaptation is to it. Even inside my team, I had people that were doubtful, said this will never catch. It's a fashion. It will go away. There's a lot of doubts. Yeah. So when you ask me what would I see, and I'm very convinced in it. I've been convinced in it from 10 years ago, where people now I think it's a lot more evident that it is becoming, especially that the heavyweights started getting into it, because I think it's our natural thing to we always dreamt about holograms and looking at the world and getting in more information. So, but my answer, I would like to get how fast, how soon the technology will become to the level where, and I've seen some demo and prototypes from different companies because we're connected, of things that blow your mind in the sense of glasses like this that already give you visuals without all the bulkiness of it. And this technology is coming. Yeah. And I think once these breakthroughs will happen, there has to be a kind of a jump with the technology. And now we're talking about the physical technology, the idea. Now, I think that also, so this is what that will happen. Now, I think we touched on a few things that AR can be, yeah, and I think there are a million more possibilities that I don't even imagine yet. And I'm saying this a lot when I'm teaching with my students. I think they will be the ones that would think of the crazy ideas of where this can go. Yeah, I'm not just talking about the face filters that I can see myself with nice hairdo that has its place, which is amazing. But I think there will be much more serious breakthroughs when people will kind of connect the dots where this technology goes. Now, a lot of it is, we all have this mobile phone with us, which is super powerful, that can scan, collect data, and where it will come, it will be. But for me, the most important is the wearables, when they will become, in a sense, more, because now it's a very niche. The VR glasses are, developers have it and a few enthusiasts. It's a still very small market, although it's expanding. If you look at the Apple Vision Pro, amazing headset, really amazing quality. I only have to say great things about it. Price range really high, at around 3,500, 4,000 euros. It's not yet a household item, but I think this will come faster than it will be. So I think the breakthrough will become where there'll be more mass adaptation of this technology. That's what I'm kind of waiting for. Hopefully, it'll come sooner than later. But I think then things will just go crazy, and we'll jump in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll be looking back at this and thinking like kind of in the same way as we think right now of society before the smartphones, where it
Yeah.
was just like how did we communicate? I think it will be the same thing where we think of like how did we even like how did we go to the store and cope with things without actually like all of this information that will
Yeah,
have.
that's totally my vision on it. That's totally where I see things going. But again, I'm totally a believer in this is the direction. There are a lot of arguments. Different people can see it differently. But so far, I think I've been on the mark, maybe slower than I expected. But the slowness, I think, is not to do so much with just the technologies. It's also it's mainly to do with people and understanding and using, like you said, with the smartphones. If you remember at the time, the first time, you don't. I'm old enough to remember there were this big phones with a suitcase that you would walk around with, or this huge, and nobody said who's ever going to deal with this kind of huge headset. Just this is ridiculous. Yeah, and look at it today. So I think the same. I'm hopeful it's the same way. We'll see. It's
Yeah.
that's the exciting part of this. Yeah.
I also heard it like as a future prediction of how we will look at ourselves at this point, like how anyone could ever like sit with their like neck crunched down looking at the phone like all day. That would be fascinating to think of. But yeah, I'm like really a believer on it as well, because I think that the way we will change things now. I've tried the like big virtual reality headsets, and I remember I thought like they're too clunky. Like you will never have that becoming like actually mainstream. But as you say, if you can have glasses that just feel like you don't even have them there, if you can like strip them, or if you can have just like some what are they call like the things people use now instead of glasses for just
Lenses inside. Yeah. Yeah.
lenses. If you can have lenses or anything like that, which gives you the same functionalities you would have with a phone, and
Yeah.
then you don't need that phone, you don't need to have it available at all times and to look at it. Like I don't think there's a world, like I don't think there's a scenario where we're not using this like insane rates within like at least a 15-year period. But the way that things are progressing now, I would think just possibly a couple of years, as you say, when it becomes a household item and the costs become lower.
Exactly. I think that's I would even take it more futuristic, which might be a bit off, but with the Neuralink and everything, yeah, these are things
Yeah.
are coming. So and then it's just about the use case of it, and it's about the creators thinking what you can do with this technology. Let's assume that's why I said the breakthrough is the technology, the physical technology, and it's going there, it's going really fast, yeah. But the breakthrough will be when suddenly say, okay, when I go around the street, I can get my lanes at this. I can get warnings of things happening. I can get a lot of functions and added value that will. I will even take it. A farmer walks on his farm and can look around and see, oh, this plot needs more watering. This plot needs this way. I need attention to
Yeah.
that. So there's so much things this technology can add, and that's why I'm taking it back to what I said before. That AR is just an interface. It'll be a link between
Yeah.
AI analyzing data, collecting the data, and analyzing, and we will just interact and hands free, which is also nice. You don't need to look at your phone. This already works with
Yeah.
most of the VR headsets. You don't need it recognize your hands, and then you can just do gestures. And this is moving way faster than yeah.
Yeah, and for entrepreneurs especially as well, when it becomes that not necessarily open source, but when you can build on top of it as well
Yeah.
to build different use cases, and it's not really centralized to the people who to the people like you right now, Nadav, who understand the technology, but when people like me who don't understand it also are able to create things on top of it, that's going to be exponential, I think.
I just want to add, I think today, and especially to maybe it'll help today, to let's say when we started with this 15 years ago, we had to have a team of programmers to develop and debug things
Yeah.
and work. Today, there's so many wonderful tools which are relatively easy. They're even making things that you don't need to be a developer. You just need to have the great ideas, and you
Mhm.
can kind of graphically develop something, graphic interfaces, and create. So I always say it's about the ideas. It's about the what, where, and
Mhm.
there's like an open, like an avalanche, an open field that will open and come with these technologies. Yeah, and people need to
Mhm.
identify it. And if somebody has a great idea, and I don't think that it's not heavy to people. A lot of times come to me and say, "Oh, this AR is so much programming." And no, today you have interfaces that build you very more. Get the great idea, we'll do it. Yeah, the cost went
Mhm.
down to production in the last time because of it. So like anything, when costs go down, you can produce more. It's a positive thing because then you can get a higher quality and more needs. So I think people who are interested in identify some kind of an opportunity with it in their field or what they're doing. Somebody is racing motorcycles, and then he goes, "Wait a second, a headset can give me information or communicate with my friends while I'm racing." Yeah, with
Mhm.
these technologies. Another person will say, "I want to assist people with the eyesight or hard." There's a lot of interesting ideas. Every person, I think, usually believe that person takes his knowledge or his base where it goes and combines, and that's the 1+1 makes it. The connection of the two things, and where the click comes, then you can have a wonderful ideas.
Yeah, really looking forward to see how these ideas will take shape in the
Yeah.
future. And I'm really happy that you wanted to come on, Nadav. It's been a great episode. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.